and more probably a large target. You might want to investigate it. It could be a 20-pound nugget. So we want to just know it's there, and then we do our investigation by picking the loop up or lowering the gain and seeing what the readings come out. Because once it's overloading, all bets are off. It doesn't know what's happening. I'd like to make a little bit of note about the utilization of the iron ID on this meter, because getting rid of iron is a very important factor in prospecting. It eliminates having to dig every target, for example, and we have two ways of doing that on the meter now. We have a VDI number, which is traditionally used in coin machines, not used in prospecting machines because it isn't totally accurate as the increase in mineralization occurs. And we've been able to utilize it along with the percentage of iron probability to have a more credible way of identifying iron. So the old no-no as far as VDIs are concerned on prospecting is held aside for this detector. The VDI number usually reads positive from 0 to 95 on non-iron targets and reads negative from 0 to minus 95 if it's possibly an iron target. Gold nuggets will traditionally work above iron, above 0. So you're going to have anywhere from 0 to 40 and 50 for gold targets. Possibly a bullet, for example, is always going to register as non-iron, as other pieces of lead and aluminum. So you have to dig everything when prospecting, not just gold. Anything that is not iron targets on VDI numbers are going to register down below 0 most all the time. And the bigger the number, negative, the more chance it is if it's iron. Now I've had to grab an umbrella because it started to rain, and this is Oregon, and this happens, liquid sunshine. So here we go, so we don't interrupt this training film. I know you want to see it come to an end here so you can get out and prospect. Okay, we're talking about the VDI numbers now, and we've established the fact that large negative numbers could be pieces of iron, positive numbers could be non-iron. But we have got also the percentage of chance of probability, and that's a valuable piece of information. It's going to be 10% to 90%, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. It's going to start grunting if the trigger is left in the center position at 80. So between 80 and 90, it will grunt on a piece of iron. You can walk away from targets like that if the other factors are there for you. So if it's at 80% and it grunts, and you look down and you got negative numbers, the chances of it being a piece of gold are pretty slim. Anything from 0, or rather 10%, up to 70%, I dig all the time. And I'm going to dig targets that are anywhere in that range because there's a possibility, depending upon the amount of mineralization in the ground, that those targets are possibly going to be a piece of gold. They can also be a small piece of nail and so forth. That's something that you'll learn by observing those numbers when you analyze your target. When you analyze it, remember, your trigger is squeezed, it stopped tracking, and you're going back and forth over the target and observing what goes on that meter. So you've got two distinct ways of identifying whether it is iron or not. Remembering that bad mineral ground can distort this. So a very tiny piece of gold or a very tiny piece of iron, if the ground is bad, could bounce down into the negative range, maybe minus 10, minus 20, up into the positive range, maybe 10, 20. And the VDI numbers, the probability is going to be usually in that 10 to 50% chance. But those little numbers on either side could very well be a piece of gold. So that's basically the important things to remember when you're prospecting, to try and eliminate the probability of iron and eliminate rather the probability of digging pieces of iron when you don't have to. I'd like to give you a hint as well in regards to using the SAT control, or the self-adjusting threshold control, and the gain control. We have presets on both of those controls. So to start with, of course, you're going to put them on the preset. If the ground is moving around, that is to say that if the mineralization is changing rapidly and you get what we call erratic behavior, the threshold is going to go up and down and waver a lot, then you have to have a nice smooth threshold in order to be able to hear small targets. These nuggets can be very, very tiny, and that little zip zip sound you hear is hard to discern if you get all kinds of other extraneous noises. The first thing to do is to start raising the SAT and leave your gain at full. I mean full at preset. If the SAT is raised from preset up a notch or two and you don't get any improvement in the elimination of all this extraneous noise, so to speak, then I suggest you try something that has really never been tried before until we developed the GMT. This comes right out of the book for our top-of-the-notch gold prospecting detector, and that is to take the SAT all the way up to hypersat. We didn't call it hypersat on a GMT, but that's what we're calling it now because it's an amazing, amazing part of the SAT. It completely changes its format. It gets up to around 9 and 10 on the scale, which isn't marked, by the way, but it says the band is called hypersat, and all of a sudden the threshold just buzzes, and the changes in threshold disappear. It's almost like a bee just going bzzz like that. The threshold wavering goes away, and you can operate and hear tiny targets. There's very little, if any, loss of depth when you jump into that position, as long as your gain is at near the preset. Now, if you don't get any alleviation of this wavering of threshold, then go back to the gain and lower it down from 8.5 or 9 to 7 or 6. By lowering the gain, you're definitely taking away some depth, but you also may quiet down the detector, so you have it operating smoothly. So remember, between the gain and the SAT and utilizing hypersat, you're able to achieve a smooth threshold fairly easily in most ground conditions, and that smooth threshold is what you need to find the tiny targets. I'm going to make this quick. It's starting to really come down now, and we want to get this over with before we drown. I wanted to say one quick thing, though, and that is that this detector, the MXT, has been a long time in developing, and it fills a wonderful need. This is truly a multi-purpose detector. Not only does it prospect effectively, but admirably. It cancels the ground like a bandit, and it's a very worthwhile detector for all kinds of treasure hunting, relic hunting, coin and jewelry hunting, and certainly for prospecting. I want to tell you one quick go here at how to set it up. We're just going to set it up 1, 2, 3 and go. We're going to set the toggle switch on the upper left here at prospecting. We're going to turn the gain on and set it right at the preset. We're going to take the dual control, set the SAT at the preset, take tracking, put it to ground, and put the trigger in the center position, and off and go. Have fun, find gold, and I get a percentage.
I know you and your new MXT are sure to be a winning combination. Thank you for your interest in White's products and the new multi-purpose MXT. For further assistance, do not hesitate to contact your local dealer or telephone toll-free 1-800-547-6911 or see us on the web at WhitesElectronics.com.